Get out of here.
Ow! Ow!
And there's lips are red.
Okay, let's line up.
Ooh, really red.
Yeah, I see.
We're starting the demonstration.
Yeah, she got you back. It's a weapons demonstration.
Oh, get it? Lining up by age.
The age of the uniforms.
Come on, Haka.
Weapons.
The one at the end on the right is the newest. All the way on the right.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
Group, sit, hut. Parade, hut.
Nice.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. God bless America.
Yeah!
We are the Colorado Military Historical Group, CMHG. Please visit our display of vehicles, weapons, and equipment following this demonstration. We are going to be demonstrating 250 years worth of your Army's history in technology of weapons and uniforms. So as our demonstrators come up and demonstrate the weapons, take a close look at how uniforms change over time from militia to different colors to really subdue. I don't have time to get into the uniforms, but that does set the context for weapons. Before we get started, just two notes. These are blank fire weapons from 1775 until about 2015. Because they are blank fire, they are notoriously unreliable. What I'm saying is, cut us some slack. Second, even though they are blank fire, they can be very loud. You will hear when I'm saying we will demonstrate when we fire. So especially for the young ones, if they want to plug their ears, please have at it. All right. April 18, 1775. That night, Paul Revere and two other riders rode across the countryside of Massachusetts, yelling, "The regulars are coming, the regulars are coming." The British set out from Boston to seize rebel contraband at the armories in Lexington and Concord. Paul Revere and his other riders were able to warn colonists, rebels, Americans, and we removed all those stores before the British got there. At Lexington Commons, militia formed up to try and thwart the British. They came with whatever they had. Here, our militiaman from 1775 is going to demonstrate a flintlock a Kentucky rifle. He's militia, he's not a soldier. So he's grabbing whatever he has in the corner of his house off of the mantle, what he hunts dinner with. In this case, a .45 caliber flintlock rifle. Because this is a militia weapon and it is a rifle. He uses that to go hunt his dinner. It is rifled, so he is very, very slow in loading. He has to measure that powder into that rifle, take that .45 inch diameter ball weighing about ½ an ounce, and slowly push it into the muzzle. Now, because it is rifled, and you'll notice he has a wooden ramrod, he has to go slow. His rate of fire is only about one shot every 2 minutes. So he is not really out there to face down the British. He's down there to whittle them down. He will demonstrate the .45 caliber flintlock rifle after he's loaded and primed. Range of that rifle, roughly 400 yards, give or take, depending on individual proficiency.
Woo!
The 45 caliber flintlock. Now you can imagine if he's facing down a formation of hundreds or thousands of redcoats, that slow loading weapon is not that good for that kind of combat in the 1700s, the 18th century. Muskets, smooth bore muskets. Muskets meaning it's loaded through the muzzle end. Smooth bore, this is not rifle. Kurt now is armed with a committee of safety musket. We had a lot of different smoothbore muskets in the Continental Army. The primary was the Charleville, provided by the French. The committee of safety musket is .75 inches, 75 caliber, shooting a ball of lead well over an ounce. It is flintlock. It is muzzle loaded, so a musket, and it is armed, or our Continental soldiers were going to load them with paper cartridges. That paper cartridge had a pre-measured amount of powder, which is both propelling charge and primer charge, as well as that 75 caliber 1 ounce lead ball. Now, because that ball is smaller than the diameter, 0.75, it's probably about a 0.70 inch ball, he can load up to 3 rounds per minute, load and fire. But because it is smooth bore, his range is only 50 to 100 yards.
Woo!
The 75 caliber committee of safety musket.
Woo!
1775, the shot heard around the world, and we declare independence. When? When's our birthday?
July 4th,
1776.
1776.
November 20.
But the Army was established shortly after those shots at Lexington and Concord on June 14th, 1775. So the Army actually predates our country. It is our oldest federal institution. We needed wasta. We needed credibility. King George was not going to give up to a bunch of militia. We needed a professional army, and so the Army was established June 14, 1775. In that time frame, the primary mechanism for firearms was, as you saw, flint and steel. But technology moved forward. Into the next century, percussion caps became the preferred ignition technique of choice, starting in about 1840. By 1860, we are preparing for the American Civil War. I'm not going to call it the War of Northern Aggression or Southern what have you, the American Civil War. But we are demonstrating here the Springfield 1860 percussion rifled musket. Now this particular weapon is 58 caliber, so 0.58 inches in diameter. It would fire a mini ball. Instead of just a round ball, it's actually a cone, and the back end is open. And so whereas the weapon is 0.58 caliber, that ball is about 0.56 caliber. So you could still get 3 shots per minute, ideally. But because it was hollow and it was rifled, on explosion, the end would expand, it would engage your rifling, and now you're shooting out 400 yards, just like that Kentucky rifle. Here we are demonstrating loading of the Springfield 1860.
See, if that happened, you'd have been in a lot of trouble back then.
That's right.
And notice his uniform, wool. This is 1860, so we're just at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. We have mass-produced weapons, mass-produced uniforms. He is loading from his cartridge box on his right hip. Again, a paper cartridge carrying pre-measured powder and that mini ball. It is loaded. Notice his steel ramrod. So it's a fast load, pack, replace the ramrod. He is going to place a percussion cap, a firing primer cap. Take aims and fires.
Ooh.
The 58 caliber Springfield 1860 rifled musket. Now, one of the challenges of this weapon and this system, it loaded as fast as that Smoothbore musket from 100 years prior. But because it was rifled, now riflemen are engaging enemy 400 yards. And so in the Civil War, casualty rates went up astronomically. We were not ready for it because we were still using the mass tactics, just like you are here, shoulder to shoulder. And so now they're being hit by rifles at a much, much farther range, 400 yards instead of 50. But that technology wouldn't last much further. By the end of the Civil War, metal cartridges were very, very common. We love that 1860, and frankly, the military after every war draws down, doesn't want to spend money. And so they initially took that 1860 that you saw and replaced the breech block mechanism to be able to fire a metal cartridge. By 1873, the Springfield model 1873 4570 caliber trapdoor rifle was the standard infantry rifle. 45 caliber, the diameter of the bullet is 0.45 inches. It's about 405 grains. That's just less than an ounce. That cartridge did have a bullet up to 500 grains as we fought our Indian wars in this part of the country. Over 70 grains of black powder. It was breech loaded, so now your rifleman could fire from the prone position. And notice Steve's kit. They were loaded single shot from loops on his belt. The Springfield 4570.
Ooh. Ooh.
Notice the increase in rate of fire. Even though it is single shot, he is still able to load, reload faster than the muzzle loader. It is a single shot rifle. Now those of you who know weapons will know that Winchester at the same time issued or sold its lever action Winfield 1873, if you remember Jimmy Stewart, sorry, right? And so you're saying, wait a minute, lever action, but the Army had in their mindset, if soldiers can rapid fire, they're going to waste ammo. And so the Army issued a single shot rifle. Ask Custer how that worked out. So, metal cartridges are the standard. By the late 1800s, turning into the 1900s, from the 19th to the 20th century, bolt action now becomes the action of choice. In the Spanish-American War, which Steve is dressed as, our standard rifle was the United States M1896, sometimes called the 3040 Krag Jorgensen. Krag Jorgensen, not American. We adopted a Danish or Norwegian weapon. It fired a 220 grain 30 caliber bullet, so 0.3 inches in diameter, 220 grains. So the bullets are getting lighter. But this is bolt action, and it was set from a 5-round internal side gate loaded magazine. Still from single loops on the belt. As we fought the Spanish, the Cubans, and the Filipinos in the Spanish-American War. 5 rounds from the Krag. Notice the increase in rate of fire of your 3040 Krag Jorgensen. Now we are at the turn of the century, from the 19th to the 20th century. Bolt action is very common. And as impressive as that Krag was, it was not good enough compared to what the Spanish were armed with. They were armed with the German 98, Gewehr 98, a Mauser. Very, very good rifle. And frankly, it was better than our Krag. So much better that immediately following the Spanish-American War, we dropped the Krag, tasked Springfield Armory to come up with a United States bolt action, and we produced a Springfield 1903 in, God bless America, 30-06. As World War I approached, the 1903 was our standard rifle. We could not manufacture enough. And so, we modified the British P-14 into the M1917, sometimes called the American Enfield. This fired 5 rounds from a stripper clip. And if you'll notice, that stripper clip is much faster loading than that side gate on the Krag. You'll also notice Mark's gear. The pouches are no longer single shots of ammo. They are packed with those 5-round stripper clips. Mark will demonstrate the M1917 30-06. Wait for it. Sound of freedom. M1917, bolt action. Very, very common action from World War I, even into World War II. But what made America, America, was our ingenuity, our Yankee ingenuity. If you look at our display, we've got an M250 caliber heavy machine gun. In World War I, most machine guns were very, very heavy, 150, 250 pound systems, not very mobile. But the Army, the United States, seeking to move to fire and maneuver, adopted the Browning automatic rifle M1918. This weapon fired the same 30-06 ammunition, 30 caliber. The bullet now is 150 grains, 1/4 of an ounce, moving out at almost 3,000, call it 2,900 feet per second. But the BAR was a squad automatic weapon, 1 or 2 per 13, 12-man squad. And Mark is demonstrating walking fire. Walking fire was the idea that machine gun or full automatic fire would accompany the squad as they attacked the enemy. The M1918 Browning automatic rifle. Now that particular system would serve into World War II and even in Korea. If you remember that bolt action 1917, outstanding weapon, good system, not good enough for Americans. By the mid-1930s, the United States adopted the United States Rifle 30 caliber M1. George Patton would call it the best battle implement ever devised. While the rest of the world was still using bolt actions, we adopted this semi-automatic system. Semi-automatic meaning it fired every time you pulled the trigger. It fired from an 8-round internal end block clip. So it's a clip, it's open, 8 shots, which is loaded through the top
Get ready, Daddy.
and had a huge increase in rate of fire. Now you notice the increase in rate of fire. was so high that a squad of 12 soldiers armed with 10 Garands would lay such a rate of fire that sometimes the German POWs thought they were under attack by machine gun battalions. A great weapon system. That M1 would serve us through Korea, 1950 to 53. But as technology moved on, powder technology improved. And instead of that long 30-06, we adapted the same bullet in a shorter cartridge. You all know it as a 308 Winchester or the 7.62 by 51 caliber cartridge. It was adopted into the M14. Notice the lines, very, very similar looking to that M1 carbine, M1 Garand. It fired from a 20-round magazine. It would have been full automatic or semi-automatic, select fire. The M14 was adopted in 1957 and would serve up until mid-1960s, call it 1965.
Whoa.
The M14. Great gun, great system. Too much gun
Wow.
for Vietnam. That 30 caliber system fired on full automatic was very uncontrollable. And 30 caliber easily out to 500, even 1,000 yards. But most of the fighting in Vietnam was close in jungle, and those 7.62 30 caliber rounds were too heavy, limiting how much each soldier could carry.
Yeah, another.
So beginning in 1959 with the Air Force,
Machine
I know
gun.
what kind of crowd we got here. The Air Force started development with Armalite on the AR-15. Curtis LeMay, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, loved a lightweight, small caliber, 5.56 weapon system. And then the Army got a hold of it and said, hey, back off, Air Force. Small arms is Army. And they took the AR-15, now run by Colt, and developed the M16. It would start seeing service in Vietnam early, call it 1965, as that M14 is on the way out. There were problems with that weapon, jamming, cleaning, etc. And by 1967, it was modified into M16A1 you see here. Disregard the M203 grenade launcher, that's for another day. It fired a 5.56 caliber cartridge, 55 grains. That's almost just 1/10 of an ounce. Compare that to what was being fired 200 years prior, over an ounce. But now this cartridge is firing at almost 3,000 feet per second.
Whoa.
As issued in the AR-15, M16, and early M16A1, it fired from a 20-round magazine. So we didn't learn much from that M14, still 20 rounds.
Wow, here we go. Whoa. Boom, boom, boom.
The M16A1.
Woo!
Great weapon system. But as time marched on, we came out of Vietnam into the 70s, and by the 80s we are worried we are facing down the Soviet threat. We see hundreds of armored vehicles coming through Germany in the Fulda Gap. And so we improve that M16 round by adding a small steel wedge penetrator, which would easily tear up Jeeps, small armored vehicles, light armored vehicles. That new bullet at 62 grains necessitates a change to the weapon that you see in front of you, the M16A2. It was our standard weapon by 1990, Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, as Lincoln is dressed in. By this time, a 30-round magazine is standard, starting in about the mid-1970s. Still same firing characteristics, 30-round magazine.
Wow, this big machine.
He's unsafe.
Boat.
It's a double feed.
Boat over.
Uh-oh, scared him.
There we go.
The fire characteristics very, very similar to that M16, M16A1. But the difference was in that bullet. Much, much more effective, sometimes too lethal. As we carried that system into the global war on terror, that steel penetrator designed to go through vehicles and light whatever, small buildings, would actually pass through our enemy. They would not know they were dead. But by the time the global war on terror came around, we adapted that round to the 855A1, still 62 grains, a lot more lethal, and it was matched with the M4 carbine. M4 carbine, the operating system is very, very similar to the M16 series. The major difference here is you see it is much shorter. It has a collapsible stock that is more accommodating to body armor, and if you notice the rails on the front end of the system, it would allow mounting of various accessories, including optics and lasers and what have you. The M4 carbine. The M4 carbine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have just witnessed over almost 250 years of firearms technology as employed by your militia and your United States Army. God bless America. Thank you for your attention. One last note, moms, dads, guardians, parents, if you would allow your kids to pick up the brass, they can have a little souvenir. We just ask that we take a look at them before they move out to make sure